Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are looking at something that really challenges the whole story we're being told that the EV transition is slowing down.
It really does. Because while you hear about Western car makers, hitting the brakes, one Chinese company is just accelerating at this unbelievable speed.
And they're bringing a new luxury car with them that, I mean, it should honestly terrify the big names in Germany. We're talking about the Denza Z9 GT.
It's a fascinating car, blending this kind of supercar performance with a really elegant luxury wagon design. But honestly, the car is almost the secondary story here.
Right, it's what's underneath the car that matters. And that gets to the big question for this deep dive. What if the biggest problem with EVs charging just went away?
Exactly. What if you could charge your car in less time than it takes to fill up with gasoline and grab a coffee?
And we're not talking about some lab prototype for 2035. This is happening right now.
So our mission today is to unpack that entire strategy. We're going to look at the car, the Denza Z9 GT, but also the game-changing tech behind it. We've got video reviews, expert analysis on the charging system, sales data, the whole picture.
Okay, let's start with the car itself, the Denza Z9 GT. It's a real statement piece. It's a shooting brake, a wagon. It's long, about 5.2 meters.
And it is heavy, well over 2.5 tons, which makes the performance numbers, as one source put it, just absurd.
Before we get to the numbers, let's set the stage. Denza is BYD's premium brand, right? They're explicitly going after the German luxury market.
And they're already succeeding. In China, Denza's sales hit over 126,000 units in 2024. And the Z9 has been the best-selling luxury EV in its price range for 3 months straight.
Wait, let's just pause on that. 126,000 units. They're already a major player. That's not a startup.
Not at all. This is a full-fledged luxury brand with serious momentum, and that's before this car fully rolls out.
Okay, so let's get into how they're doing it. The powertrains. They have two options, and both are, frankly, a little nuts.
They really are.
Yeah.
First, you have the plug-in hybrid, the PHEV. It's got a 2.0-liter turbo engine plus electric motors.
And the combined output is?
640 kilowatts of power and over 1,000 newton meters of torque. It does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.6 seconds.
That's in the hybrid. What's crazy is the EV-only range on that thing.
It's 201 kilometers from its 38 kilowatt battery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that makes most Western PHEVs look like a joke. You could do all your weekly commuting on just the battery.
And then there's the full EV. If you go all electric, the numbers get even crazier.
They absolutely do. The pure EV version has a system power of 965 horsepower.
Almost 1,000 horsepower.
And 1,150 newton meters of torque. It gets to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.4 seconds. That's, what, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.2 seconds? It's hypercar territory.
In a family wagon. It just doesn't compute. And both versions have this E3 badge on the back. That signifies the tri-motor setup, right?
Exactly. One motor on the front axle and 2 independent motors on the rear axle. That gives you all-wheel drive, but it's much more sophisticated than that.
The sources mentioned it can do a crab walk for parking, which is a neat gimmick.
It is, but the real point is the dynamic control. With 2 independent rear motors, you get incredibly precise torque vectoring. The computer can send the exact amount of power to each individual wheel instantly.
So it's using software and electric motors to make a huge, heavy car feel nimble.
That's the idea. The reviews noted the steering can feel a little artificial, but the grip and stability are phenomenal thanks to that system. It's compensating for mass with pure computing power.
And that engineering focus seems to carry over into the cabin. The luxury level, from what I've seen, is genuinely shocking.
It really is. It's designed to go toe-to-toe with the best from Europe. Soft touch materials everywhere, and the seats are ridiculously adjustable. There's even a full lie-back mode.
And the little details, the things that scream luxury. I saw a crystal gear shifter.
Crystal shifter, crystal buttons, a massive 17.3-inch main screen, frameless doors that are electric soft close and apparently feel incredibly heavy and solid, like a bank vault.
But the detail that got me, the one that tells you exactly who they're targeting, is the dual fridge system.
Right. Not just one little cooler. There's a main fridge and then a second refrigerated compartment in the backseat armrest.
Specifically for, what, a bottle of champagne?
That's exactly what it's for. It's a level of opulence that says we are not cutting any corners.
And that brings us to the price, because this is the real killer. In China, it starts at the equivalent of about 43,000 US dollars.
Now, that will go for export.
Yeah.
The speculation is maybe somewhere between $55,000 and $75,000 in other markets.
Even at 75 grand for a 1,000 horsepower wagon with this level of luxury and tech, that is massively competitive. It just blows everything else out of the water on value.
It really does.
Yeah.
But as incredible as the car is, It's just the wrapping paper.
Hmm.
The real gift, the thing that changes the entire conversation, is the charging technology.
Right. BYD's megawatt flash charging, this is the core of their advantage because it tackles the single biggest hurdle for mass EV adoption.
It's the crux of it all. The breakthrough here is this promise: charging from a low battery state to over 50% capacity in less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes. That basically kills charging anxiety. If you can stop for 5 minutes and get hundreds of kilometers of range, range anxiety also becomes kind of irrelevant.
And the power level to do that is up to 1,000 kilowatts,
Mhm.
1 megawatt.
For context, the fastest public chargers you'll find in most of Europe or the US top out at, what, 350, maybe 400 kilowatts on a good day?
Exactly. This is more than double the speed.
So this can't just be a case of making a bigger plug. This sounds like a complete architectural redesign.
It was a full ecosystem redesign.
Yeah.
You can't just push a megawatt of power through existing systems. They built this from the ground up on their new Super E platform, and the key is a 1,000-volt electrical architecture.
Okay, so explain that. Why is 1,000 volts the magic number?
Well, it's about managing heat. Think of it like a pipe. Power is voltage times current. To move a huge amount of power at a lower voltage, like 400 volts, you need an enormous amount of current.
And massive current creates massive heat.
Exactly, which requires huge, heavy, expensive cables and cooling systems. But if you double the voltage to, say, 1,000 volts, you can move the exact same amount of power with less than half the current.
Less current means less heat, less waste, more efficiency.
Precisely. But to do that, you have to re-engineer everything. The motors, the inverters that convert DC to AC power, the charging plugs, the cables. Even the car's heating and AC systems had to be redesigned for the massive thermal management challenge.
And the battery itself must be special. You mentioned it's an LFP battery, lithium iron phosphate. Why that when other chemistries have higher energy density?
Because for this application, stability and durability are more important than squeezing out the absolute maximum range. LFP chemistry is inherently more stable and can handle more charge cycles with less degradation, especially under the stress of repeated ultra-high power charging.
They're optimizing for charging speed and battery lifespan over just a big range number on a sticker.
Right. And this all comes back to BYD's biggest advantage: vertical integration.
They make everything themselves.
Everything. They started as a battery company. They developed the LFP chemistry, the 1,000-volt architecture, the power electronics, the motors, the charging stations. It's all in-house. A Western automaker has to coordinate a dozen different suppliers. BYD just has a meeting.
Which means they can control cost, quality, and iterate so much faster. And it lets them solve other big problems, like where does a megawatt of power actually come from without blacking out the neighborhood?
That's the other genius part of the ecosystem. They pair these charging stations with huge battery energy storage systems, BESS units.
So giant stationary batteries.
Exactly. These batteries charge up slowly from the grid during off-peak hours when there's excess power. Then, when a car like the Z9 plugs in, the station discharges power from the stored battery, not directly from the grid. It acts as a buffer.
Which makes high-speed charging possible even in places where the local grid isn't super robust. It's a complete end-to-end solution.
It is. And this brings us to the global warning. Because if you only read the headlines in the West, you'd think the EV transition is in trouble.
Right. Ford's scaling back, the EU is making noise about combustion engines. The whole narrative is about a slowdown.
But in China, the R&D spending on these next-gen platforms is only intensifying. We are seeing two completely different stories playing out, one of hesitation and one of just relentless technological advancement.
And this is why it matters to you, the listener. The two big hurdles for EVs have always been range anxiety and charging anxiety. BYD is now taking that second, bigger hurdle and just smashing it. They've reached speed parity with gasoline.
Once you remove that inconvenience, the whole equation changes. And this tech is not staying in China. The Denza Z9 GT is coming to Europe in the second half of the decade.
And is bringing megawatt charging with it.
It is. And that sets a new benchmark that everyone else, Porsche, Mercedes, BMW now has to chase, and they are years behind.
So the Z9 GT isn't just a car, it's the physical proof of this whole technological shift. It's luxury, it's performance, it's priced aggressively, and it's backed by the fastest charging in the world.
It's a clear signal that the future of EVs isn't about compromise anymore. It's about acceleration on every single front, and the gap is widening.
So to wrap up our deep dive, we've got the Denza Z9 GT, a luxury wagon with supercar power, and it's built on BYD's vertically integrated 1,000-volt architecture that can give you a meaningful charge in under 5 minutes.
Which leads to the final question. If you solve charging anxiety, what happens to the EV itself?
And that's the really fascinating thought to leave you with, because one of the side effects the sources mentioned is profound. If you can charge that fast pretty much anywhere, you really need a massive 100 kilowatt hour battery.
Probably not for most of your driving. And if you can use smaller batteries, the cars become cheaper, lighter, and need fewer raw materials. Their environmental impact goes down.
So solving the charging problem doesn't just make EVs more convenient. It fundamentally changes how they'll be designed in the future. It's a win on every level. It completely resets the parameters for the whole industry. Stay informed, and we'll see you next time for the next deep dive.